Hello, everybody. Here's some random thoughts while I stroll around about the current gentrocracy, if I say that right, that we're living in our politics, as everyone in power seems to be 70 or above and dealing with a myriad of health issues or uh, undisclosed disappearances for different reasons. Most prominently, Mitch McConnell, who they say collapsed and had a heart attack in his home, was found unresponsive, and has not been seen in public for 3 weeks since then. And no one knows whether or not he's alive, frankly, because his team has been very poor with their messaging and been very unconvincing. In the last day or two, there's been a series of people who have come out and said that they've had 20-minute phone conversations with Mitch McConnell, yet all of them have been so lockstep in their announcement of having a 20-minute conversation about virtually the exact same topics down the board that it really reads like they just got a talking point memo and they all went out, and none of them were even smart enough to change up their lines a little bit, because it just reads very inauthentic. And frankly, Mitch McConnell, before his most recent heart attack, didn't look like he could really carry on a vigorous 20-minute conversation before that. So it doesn't really, I don't think people in the, it's not being read well in the room. Everyone is still very skeptical. Although, most observers of Mitch McConnell and the political media do seem to suggest that, using subterfuge to hold on to power as long as possible, even if he has died, would be exactly the type of thing Mitch McConnell would appreciate and want to have done. So he's doing, if he has passed and they are hiding it, they would be doing exactly what he wanted. There's also the case recently of a Republican congressman who disappeared for several months and showed back up claiming depression, which is a very real disease and is a very terrible mental illness. Yet in public service, I think you do owe your constituents and the public some insight into where you are and why you can't perform your duties to your constituency. And frankly, the claim that you were so incapacitated by depression that you could no longer function and you couldn't leave a hospital, that is undercut if you are still actively making stock trades and doing business from that hospital, because you weren't depressed enough to conduct your own personal business. You were just unable to do your public job and inform everybody and then still hold on to power. So hopefully his next primary will be very interesting. The old leadership being completely ineffective, and even the younger leadership who's inherited the old ideas, completely ineffective, and they just don't have the ability to be effective as legislators or in messaging and fundraising, because the Democratic National Committee is at very low levels of funding compared to the GOP at this point. And they're really just failing across the board. Graham Plattner is now out as the main Senate candidate, rightfully so, because of his allegations and the credibility that they seem to be. And, there's still something to be said to having a moral line in politics and not accepting the bottom of the barrel from your candidates. And as someone who would like to see Susan Collins replaced, I'm not too worried still. I'm not panicked as people seem to be, because maybe Graham Plattner had a really great not cult of personality, but really great following based off his personality in Maine. But to me, it was just that he was anti-establishment. He had policies that were focusing on affordability, and he was willing to tell Democratic leadership and the voters of Maine that he wasn't going to vote for Chuck Schumer as majority leader and actively try to seek new leadership of the party. All of those positions, I think, are very repeatable in another candidate, maybe even a better vetted, more polished candidate who still has some message control. And as long as I think, Chuck Schumer doesn't come and swoop in and try to pick some candidate who everyone in the base will hate, then hopefully Maine still has a good chance of flipping, even though Susan Collins is a very, very formidable opponent. And, getting back to Chuck Schumer, he's probably going to need to announce his retirement soon if he wants to remain with any sort of legacy at all. He's wildly out of step with the base of his party, and he's completely ineffectual as a leader. It's going to be very interesting to see who in the next generation comes up as a leadership, especially at the federal level, because currently it seems like Mayor Mondami is going to be the new face of Democratic messaging for some while, as the media seems to put his response to things and his speeches before Chuck Schumer's or any of the main Senate or congressional leadership in importance, at least. I'm sure he's getting more clicks than them at this point and a lot more views. And he's representing the party, frankly, much better than they have.